Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. Dynamite tonight was from the Gas South Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. And Dynamite tonight, I thought it was an okay show. It wasn't the best show, in my opinion, but the show was just okay. It was a lot better than Monday Night Raw, which, every Dynamite show is better than Monday Night Raw, and even better than SmackDown. So we'll put it that way. But tonight on Dynamite, we had Bryan Danielson in action. He's still focusing on taking out members of the Dark Order. So tonight he faced 5, Allin Angels of the Dark Order. CM Punk was in action. Punk ended up taking on Moriarty. I think that's how you pronounce the last name. Wardlow was in action where he faced AC Adams. We had a tag team match. Darby, Allin, and Sting teamed up to take on the Gunn Club of Colton and Billy Gunn. We had the quarterfinals match in the TBS Women's Championship tournament. And it was Ruby Soho versus the Alien, Kris Statlander. And the main event, we saw a Atlanta street fight where CODY Rhodes ended up facing ANDRADE El Idolo. But overall, Dynamite tonight was an okay show. It just wasn't the best show tonight. But let's get on with the review. So Dynamite opened up tonight with Bryan Danielson versus Allin Angels. Of course, 5 of the Dark Order. Allin, 5 Angels. So Bryan Danielson still targeting, trying to take out members of the Dark Order. But this was just a okay match here. It wasn't the best. In my opinion, I found it a little boring. But Bryan started off the match with a lockup on Allin Angels. And he attacked Angels in the corner. And we had Bryan end up following up with some chops to Angels. He ended up kicking Angels in the corner before he ended up delivering a running drop kick. Angels end up almost catching Bryan with the backslide. But Bryan ended up delivering a butterfly suplex to Angels. Angels got back up, and he ended up sending Bryan Danielson outside the ring, and he followed that up with a top rope suicida and a moonsault off the second turnbuckle out to the outside. So we had Angels end up putting Bryan back into the ring. Angels end up delivering a Spanish fly to Bryan, which he went for the cover. Bryan kicked out at 2. So we had Bryan end up nailing Angels with the running knees. Bryan refused to go for the pinfall. So Bryan ended up nailing Angels with some stomps to his face. Bryan then ended up locking in the knee bar. And Bryan ended up posing on the turnbuckle, and he still had Angels in the knee bar, and Bryan ended up winning the match. Post-match, Tony Schiavone was in the ring. He was interviewing Bryan. Bryan ended up telling Tony Schiavone that if that is the best Atlanta has got, he whooped Allin Angels' ass. He ended up saying that not only did he kick Allin Angels' head in, but he thinks he snapped his MCL, which Bryan was like, I'm not so sure if you all know what that is. So Bryan ended up saying that next week there is a member of the Dark Order from Long Island, and he will stomp his head in as well. So he then ended up telling Hangman and Page that in 2 weeks he is going to be taking the AEW World Championship. And Bryan then wanted to say that he will show it's not cowboy shit. It's coward shit. So Paige, who was on commentary during the match, he ended up trying to come down to the ring. But John Silver came out. John Silver ended up stopping Paige from going to the ring. And Silver ended up going to the ring for him because Paige wasn't allowed to put his hands on Bryan. So John Silver was like, you know what? I'll take care of it. So John Silver rushed to the ring. He got into the ring. Bryan ended up bailing out of it. So Bryan ended up telling Silver that he is beneath him, just like Paige. So Bryan Danielson ended up goading Paige, ended up saying that he would love to slap him in the face. But Bryan was like, the fans don't want to see that. And the fans don't deserve it. So Bryan ended up walking to the back, and that was that. But overall, this match was okay. In my opinion, it was boring. Just wasn't the best, in my opinion. Just wasn't the best match. This is a match that you would see on AEW Dark. It was just an easy win for Bryan here. It was predictable. Because going into the match, I'm like, all right, Bryan's win the match. Let's move on. But really love what Bryan is doing here with him as a heel. I love it. And then we had a vignette from Miro. Miro was shown in a white room, and he was saying that he has been questioning what he needs to do. He kept saying that as God has revealed it to him, and that he will only bring fear. So that was a vignette from Miro, little vignette from Miro. Thinking what he needs to do to, build himself back up. But that was that. Post-match, Tony Schiavone was in the ring. He was interviewing Bryan. Bryan ended up telling Tony Schiavone that if that is the best Atlanta has got, he whooped Allin Angels' ass. He kept saying that not only did he kick Allin Angels' head in, but he thinks he snapped his MCL, which Bryan was like, I'm not so sure if you all know what that is. So Bryan ended up saying that next week there is a member of the Dark Order from Long Island, and he will stomp his head in as well. So he then ended up telling Hangman and Paige that in 2 weeks he is going to be taking the AEW World Championship. And Bryan then wanted to say that he will show it's not cowboy shit. It's coward shit. So Paige, who was on commentary during the match, he ended up trying to come down to the ring. But John Silver came out. John Silver ended up stopping Paige from going to the ring. And Silver ended up going to the ring for him because Paige wasn't allowed to put his hands on Bryan. So John Silver was like, you know what? I'll take care of it. So John Silver rushed to the ring. He got into the ring. Bryan ended up bailing out of it. So Bryan ended up telling Silver that he is beneath him, just like Paige. So Bryan Danielson ended up goading Paige, ended up saying that he would love to slap him in the face. But Bryan was like, the fans don't want to see that. And the fans don't deserve it. So Bryan ended up walking to the back, and that was that. But overall, this match was okay. In my opinion, it was boring. Just wasn't the best, in my opinion. Just wasn't the best match. This is a match that you would see on AEW Dark. It was just an easy win for Bryan here. It was predictable. Because going into the match, I'm like, All right, Bryan's winning the match. Let's move on. But really love what Bryan is doing here with him as a heel. I love it. And then we had a vignette from Miro. Miro was shown in a white room, and he was saying that he has been questioning what he needs to do. He kept saying that as God has revealed it to him, and that he will only bring fear. So that was a vignette from Miro, little vignette from Miro. Thinking what he needs to do to, build himself back up. But that was that. And then we had CM Punk versus Lee Moriarty. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. But the match was okay. Not great. Very predictable in the outcome. But before the match got underway, MJF ended up coming out. MJF was on commentary for the match. He was trashing Punk on commentary. MJF ended up claiming that CM stands for cooking meth, which he then went on to announce that there's going to be a Diamond Dozen Battle Royal next week on Dynamite, which is going to be at the UBS Arena in Long Island. So they announced that for Dynamite next week. So the match got underway. Lee Moriarty ended up taking control of the match. He ended up bringing Punk down. Punk ended up getting back up, and he was building some momentum up, and he was delivering shoulder tackles in the corner to Moriarty, and he followed it up with a leg lariat. Punk then ended up hitting a diamond lariat from the second rope as he took control. Punk ended up hitting lateral presses as he launched Moriarty across the ring with an Irish whip. So Punk ended up missing with the knee in the corner to Moriarty because Moriarty ended up coming back, delivered a clothesline and a boot to Punk's face. We had Punk end up booting Moriarty in the corner, then hit a crossbody. Moriarty ended up rolling through, and Punk ended up kicking out too. And Moriarty ended up transitioning that roll up straight into the crossface, which Punk ended up getting to the ropes to break it up. Punk ended up sending Moriarty onto the top turnbuckle, and he connected with a Hurricanrana. And we had both Punk and Moriarty end up attempting pinfall attempts. Punk ended up dropping Moriarty with a kick to the face. So in the end, Punk ended up flipping Moriarty over his shoulder, and he ended up delivering the GTS. So there you go. Punk ended up winning the match. Post-match, MJF was on the mic. MJF ended up claiming to be proud of Punk for saying that he's the best in the world when he's struggling to beat QT Marshall and Lee Moriarty. He ended up saying that the only thing he's best at is trying to get in Britt Baker's pants. So MJF ended up claiming Punk that he is a one-pump jump. So CM Punk ended up getting on the mic. He ended up saying that MJF can talk all he wants about him, struggling to win. He ended up saying that the talent he's beaten are better than him, and he knows it. So Punk ended up telling MJF to shut up and bring his needle dick to the ring. So MJF ended up saying that Punk needs him more than otherwise. He wanted to say that next week he will win the Diamond Dozen Battle Royal. So MJF ended up claiming that he will be amongst fans he appreciates next week. He ended up telling Punk to not bring his maggot of a dog anymore, because if he does, he will put Larry to sleep. I guess Larry is Punk's dog. So Punk ended up saying that he's heard enough. So he headed up to the ramp. Wardlow ended up getting in his way. And that was that. So really liking this feud here with MJF and Punk. That whole 20-minute segment from last week, still one of the best things of last week's Dynamite. That was great TV. And yet WWE tried to do it on Monday Night Raw this week with Edge being CM Punk, MJF being The Miz, and they just failed. WWE just failed with that. Trying to copy that awesome segment from last week with Punk and MJF. That ran 20 minutes. It was 20 minutes of great television there. And then we saw Britt Baker. Britt Baker was backstage with Tony Schiavone. Baker ended up saying that it was disgusting what Tony Khan did to her last week, while Jamie ended up saying that she was busy having one of the best matches in the TBS Women's Championship Tournament. Britt Baker ended up pointing out that Jamie lost. So Jamie ended up reminding Baker that she did the same when she was facing Thunder Rosa. So Britt Baker ended up revealing that Jamie Hayter will face Riho next week on Dynamite. So there you go. Another match booked for Dynamite next week. Jamie Hayter versus Riho. So then we had Adam Cole. Adam Cole, baby! He ended up making his way out to commentate on the next match. Orange Cassidy ended up heading out. So Orange Cassidy and Adam Cole had a face-off. So we had Orange Cassidy, putting his hands in his pockets. Looked like he was going to do those kicks to Adam Cole. And the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick, they end up sneaking behind Orange Cassidy. So we had the Bucks end up trying to go for super kicks to Orange Cassidy. Cassidy ended up seeing them. So Cassidy starts doing his slow kicks. And Adam Cole end up low blowing Orange Cassidy. So both the Bucks and Adam Cole end up mocking Cassidy's kicks, his slow kicks. Cole and the Bucks were mocking Orange Cassidy's slow kicks before the Bucks end up hitting the double super kicks to Orange Cassidy. So Cole and the Bucks were teasing a combined BTE trigger. And we saw Chuck Taylor and Wheeler Yuta end up coming out. They end up chasing off Cole and the Bucks. And that was that. So Chuck Taylor, Wheeler Yuta, Orange Cassidy, they're not done with Adam Cole and the Bucks. So this little feud is continuing with them. But in my opinion, I thought this was just a way for them to kill time, in my opinion. And then we had Tony Nese. This was a pre-tape segment. Tony Nese was backstage. Nese ended up claiming that Sammy Guevara doesn't deserve to be the TNT champion. He ended up saying that on Rampage, he will change all of that. And he will put the TNT championship around a premier athlete's waist. So we're going to be seeing that on Rampage on Friday. Tony Nese versus Sammy Guevara for the TNT championship. Should be a good matchup there. It's going to be Tony Nese's AEW in-ring debut on Rampage. So should be good. And then we had Wardlow versus AC Adams. This was a squash match. So Wardlow was out there along with Shawn Spears. AC Adams ended up slapping Wardlow's chest, which pissed off Wardlow. Adams ended up trying to bounce off of Wardlow from the ropes, and it did nothing to Wardlow. Wardlow ended up nailing a powerbomb. He then followed up with another powerbomb. So he was just, powerbombing AC Adams until he got the win. So there you go. Wardlow ended up winning the match. So post-match, Spears ended up attacking AC Adams with a chair. That was that. But Wardlow, now in my opinion, he feels like AEW Dark material. Because he's here 2 years already. Wardlow was here 2 years with AEW. He had the momentum, and then, as time went on, it kind of fizzled out. And so now whenever I see Wardlow on TV, he's just AEW Dark material to me. I think they should build Wardlow back up. So he feels like AEW Dark material to me now when I see him on TV. But overall, this was a squash match. This was an easy win for Wardlow. So then we saw Penta and Pac. Pac was wearing an eye patch because of the mist last week. Pac ended up saying that he is good to fight on Friday. So it'll be Pentagon and Pac versus FTR on Rampage. Rey Fenix was unable to be on Dynamite this week. So that was that. Then we had the Gunn Club. We had Colton and Billy Gunn versus Sting and Darby Allin. And this was a decent matchup here. Not great by any means. So we had Taz on commentary for this match. The match started with Darby Allin. He ended up trying to go behind Colton Gunn. Colton Gunn ended up nailing Darby Allin with an elbow and a shoulder tackle. So Darby Allin was trying to do an arm drag, but it got blocked. He did a second arm drag. That wasn't blocked by Colton Gunn. So Billy Gunn ended up coming in. It led to Sting coming in because Darby Allin ended up taking in Sting. So Sting ended up hitting some back fists to Billy Gunn and then a clothesline. So yeah, Billy Gunn ended up avoiding the Stinger Splash because he got out of the ring. Colton Gunn ended up coming back in, and Darby Allin ended up coming back in. Billy Gunn ended up making a tag. He ended up catching Darby in midair. He then planted Darby down on the mat. So Colton ended up launching Darby into the corner. Darby Allin ended up bouncing into the ring post and actually cut Darby Allin's head there, that spot. Darby Allin ended up connecting with the Jawbreaker, and Billy Gunn was in here. Billy Gunn ended up lifting Darby Allin and throwing Darby behind him, which Darby ended up landing on his feet. Austin Gunn ended up getting involved. Darby ended up sending Austin into Billy and allowed Sting to get involved. So at the end of the match, we had Darby Allin end up setting up the Scorpion Death Drop on Colton Gunn. And there you go. Sting and Darby Allin ended up winning the match. But overall, the match was decent. Not great, in my opinion. I mean, we're seeing, Billy Gunn and Sting in there, and in my opinion, both guys could still move in the ring, despite, their age. And then we had Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho was being interviewed. He ended up saying that he didn't come to Eddie Kingston's aid last week. He ended up saying that he was just out there to take out 2.0. So 2.0 and Daniel Garcia ended up coming up, and they ended up jumping Jericho, start beating him down. Jericho ended up taking a chair shot to the head. And it was then confirmed that Jericho will not be on Rampage this Friday because of that. So they shot this earlier in the day. There you go. Jericho will not be at Rampage on Friday. He won't be on commentary. So then we saw Lio Rush. Lio Rush ended up appearing. Rush ended up telling Taz that it is Taz's job to know him because Taz is a commentator. Rush went on to say that he is a fighter, and the people know that. Lio Rush is a fighter, and he's really good in the ring. Been been a fan of Lio Rush. The guy is talented. The guy knows how to cut a promo. So, I'm saying that he won't be going down without putting up a fight. And then all we see is Dante Martin end up coming out. Ricky Starks, the FTW champion, was beside him. And pretty much that was that. But in my opinion, I think Dante Martin is the mole in this whole thing with Team Taz. Like, I think Dante Martin only just signed with Team Taz, maybe to trick Team Taz, that, he's not a part of the group, that he's just only pretending to be part of Team Taz. And then he's going to go back to teaming with Lio Rush, because I really enjoyed Dante Martin and Lio Rush as a team. Thought they worked really well together. But that's my prediction. I think Dante Martin is this whole mole in this whole thing with Team Taz. So that's my prediction. That Dante Martin is just, setting up Team Taz, and Dante Martin's going to be back with Lio Rush. That's my prediction. I may be wrong on that, but that's how I see it. And then we had Mark Sterling and Jade Cargill. Both of them were hyping up Jade's match on Rampage this Friday with Janai Kai, or Janai Kai, I think that's how you pronounce the last name. And so Thunder Rosa ended up appearing. Thunder Rosa ended up telling Jade Cargill, can't speak here, Jade Cargill, ended up saying that she will be commentating. Thunder Rosa will be commentating for Cargill's match on Rampage. So there you go. We're going to be getting that match on Rampage. And then we had the quarterfinal match in the TBS Women's Championship Tournament. The Allin Kris Statlander versus Ruby Soho. And this was a very good match here. This was a very, very good women's match. The match started off with Kris Statlander. She ended up bringing Ruby Soho down. And Ruby ended up getting back up. She ended up getting a chance to hit a punch to Kris Statlander, but she couldn't. Statlander ended up having a chance to kick Soho, but she ended up not doing it. Kris Statlander ended up doing a little boot to Ruby Soho, where she goes like that. So Ruby ended up coming off the top rope. She ended up trying to hit a monkey flip, but Statlander ended up doing a handstand. So both women were going back and forth. Ruby ended up dropping Kris Statlander with a flatliner. She ended up going for the cover. Statlander kicked out at 2. Statlander got back up. She ended up delivering a vertical suplex to Soho. Statlander was looking to go for a senton, and she ended up missing. Ruby Soho ended up delivering a shot to the back of Statlander's head. And then Soho ended up hitting a sharp kick to Statlander. So Soho ended up trying to go for the Bulldog, but it was reversed into the Blue Thunder Bomb. Statlander ended up getting the Blue Thunder Bomb, which she went for the cover. Soho ended up kicking out at 2. And at the end of the match, we had Kris Statlander end up trying to hit the Big Bang Theory. Soho was able to reverse the Big Bang Theory. She ended up sneaking in a pinfall with a roll-up. And there you go. Ruby Soho ended up winning the match. So she's moving on to the semifinals in the TBS Women's Championship Tournament, which we all knew. I knew Ruby Soho was going to be moving on. But post-match, both Soho and Kris Statlander, they ended up shaking hands. And then Vicky Guerrero came out. Vicky Guerrero got in the face of Kris Statlander at the top of the ramp. So Ruby Soho was celebrating. She was on the the top. She was on the top rope, and Nyla Rose was in the ring. Nyla Rose ended up launching Soho from the top rope down to the mat. Statlander ended up running into the ring, and Nyla Rose ended up getting out to avoid Statlander. Wanted nothing to do with her. And pretty much that was that. But overall, this was a very good women's match between Statlander and Soho. So now my prediction for the final match in the tournament. I think, this is my prediction, is going to be Thunder Rosa versus Ruby Soho. I think Ruby Soho is going to be defeating Thunder Rosa, and the title's going to Ruby Soho. We all know it. I know it. And you all do. Ruby Soho is going to be the first ever TBS Women's Champion. So I see how that might go down. I think if AEW does it, it's going to be Thunder Rosa versus Ruby Soho, the final matchup in the tournament. That's my prediction. Main event. Andrade El Idolo versus Cody Rhodes in a Atlanta street fight. Of course, Andrade ended up coming out along with Jose. Cody Rhodes came out along with Arn Anderson, of course. And, of course, Andrade, wore that awesome-looking mask when he made his way down, which was awesome. He was carrying a bag in hand. And Cody ended up making his way out. And when Cody made his way out, Andrade ended up attacking Cody. Jose ended up attacking Arn Anderson, which when Jose ended up attacking Arn Anderson fell down off the stage. And I don't know if some of you caught that, but I did. Arn Anderson ended up falling off the stage. So Cody and Andrade were battling around. Jose was battling with Arn Anderson. So Arn Anderson ended up punching Jose. So we had Andrade and Cody end up going into the crowd, into the stands. We had Cody end up getting a trash can. He launched it at Andrade. And we had Cody end up getting up on the guardrail. He ended up hitting the moonsault onto Andrade, which was awesome. And the crowd here, because this was in Cody's home state, they were mixed on Cody. There were some boos for him, and some cheered for him. Also, T-Pain, who is one of the judges on Go Big Show along with Cody, was sitting ringside here during the match. So T-Pain was present at ringside. So we had Andrade end up turning the stairs upside down. He ended up dropping Cody face first into the corner. Cody ended up sending Andrade into the post as he ended up hitting Andrade with a chair to his face. So Cody ended up throwing his weight belt, and Andrade ended up low-blowing Cody. Andrade then went into his bag, and he took out a laptop. He took the laptop, he ended up smashing it into Cody's face, which the laptop broke into pieces. And Andrade ended up following that up with a chair shot to Cody's face. And we saw later on in the match, Cody ended up nailing Andrade with a chain. And Cody ended up delivering a power slam. The crowd booed him here. So Cody ended up going for a top suicida outside the ring. And Andrade ended up hitting a chair shot to Cody. Andrade ended up pulling up the mat on the outside. And Andrade ended up going for a pile driver, but Cody ended up turning it into a backdrop on Andrade. So Andrade went back into the ring. Cody was pulling out some weapons from underneath the ring. There was a kendo stick. And of course, there was a sledgehammer, which the crowd booed because right there Cody is just taking jabs at Triple H. And then, if you thought the sledgehammer that Cody took out from under the ring was enough, Cody ended up finally getting the golden shovel. Yeah, there was a golden shovel. And with him using the sledgehammer, taking out the sledgehammer, and then the golden shovel, you could tell right there that, oh, is this finally Cody teasing for a heel turn? That's my prediction. I think, this is set up for Cody turning heel. So it's a little tease. So Jose ended up running down to the ring. Cody nailed Jose with the golden shovel. Andrade ended up flying over the ring ropes. He ended up hitting Cody with a splash outside of the ring. And at the end of the match, Andrade ended up bringing in the table. He managed to send Cody through the table, but the two guys, Andrade and Cody, they were having a tug of war over the table, over this other table. So the table ends up getting set up. Cody Rhodes and Andrade end up brawling on the top rope. And Brandi Rhodes end up coming in to the ring. Brandi Rhodes appeared, and she had lighter fluid in hand. So Brandi Rhodes started pouring the lighter fluid all over the table. She had a match in hand, and she set the table on fire. The whole table was on fire. Cody and Andrade were still up on the top rope. So Cody ended up sending Andrade and himself crashing through the flaming table. Cody got it more because he went through the flaming table than Andrade. So Cody then ended up pinning Andrade. So there you go. Cody Rhodes ended up winning the match. But that flaming table spot was awesome. The crowd loved it. And the last time we saw a flaming table was WrestleMania 22 with Edge and Mick Foley. I think that was the last time we saw somebody going through a flaming table. But like I said, this spot was awesome, even though Cody went through it more than Andrade. But it was awesome. It was an awesome match and an awesome, end to Dynamite. Even though Dynamite tonight, like I said, was an okay show, it wasn't their best. But this match, this main event, was awesome. Very good match. Good main event. But anyways, that's it for the Dynamite review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. And until the next video, I'll see you all later.